Oh, stretch out the old chest.
For a podcast.
Tipping Liverpool to stay up this year.
Thanks for explaining how the Premier League works then.
Enjoy that now.
No.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Football Times podcast with myself, RadioTimes.com sport editor Michael Potts, and I'm joined once again in the virtual studio, following the script, by Mr. Jake Wilson of BBC Match of the Day magazine, who is in self-isolation. How you doing?
These walls, they're closing in a little, but we do it for the good of the world. So, yeah.
Jake Wilson, saving the world 1 hour at a time for 14 days in his house. Nice Ajax shirt, by the way. I know nobody can see this, but that's a strong Ajax shirt there.
There may be a reason I'm wearing this later in the pod, but we'll come back to that.
Ooh, interesting. I mean, I hope people are intrigued because I'm intrigued because I've got no idea where that's going. We will be rounding up a few of the biggest games on TV this weekend. We've got another 10 games coming up for us all to soak up and enjoy while we can't leave our houses. And then we'll be chatting about Fantasy Premier League once again. Not a bad week for me, I do believe. And the ship appears to be steadying, by the way. And then we'll be chatting about some of our... Maybe this has got something to do with the Ajax shirt. Has this got something to do with the Ajax shirt? We're going to be discussing some of our favourite Premier League players. So not necessarily the greatest ones, not necessarily the top dogs. They could be the top dogs, but we'll be chatting through some of our heroes, the guys who just make you go, yeah, man, I quite like football now. And if you have any of your own suggestions, please send them in to us. We'd love to hear them, no matter how wrong they are. Moving on to the previews, we have Leicester. It's Liverpool versus West Ham. That's a 5:30 kickoff on Saturday. It's on Sky Sport Premier League main event and Now TV. Liverpool going along all right. I mean, in a season where nobody seems to be putting together too much great form, they're sort of plugging away. I want to give a very quick shout out, or an off the bat shout out to your boy Diogo Jota. 2 goals, 2 games. Oh. He's coming into it. He's not
Liverpool's 10,000th Premier League goal.
Big deal. It's a big deal. Is it really a big deal? Yeah.
It was on Twitter for 6 minutes, so I don't know really. Is that the lifespan of anything though nowadays? 6 minutes on Twitter, that's all you get.
Captivates your attention for 6 minutes on Twitter, then it's basically the world's greatest revolution since Twitter. Yeah, he's doing all right there, isn't he? Couple of goals. Liverpool, bit of a change of shape from Liverpool as well last weekend, moving from that 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1. Jota slotting in on the right there, or on the left. He sort of drifts about a little bit. They keep switching over. Do you think that's here to stay? What do you think about Liverpool in the last few weeks?
I think, like you said, no one's put together any real form, except for maybe Aston Villa and Everton. Liverpool are second at the minute, even though they haven't convinced. They've 3 wins on the bounce now. They're getting over the line in these games without really being brilliant. I think that's a really good sign. I think Klopp's going to be really quite pleased because I think they're going to end up better equipped this season than maybe last. Like behind the amazing front three that they've got, they didn't always seem to have loads of options before. We saw Shaqiri midweek and obviously Origi, but now with Minamino and my old boy Diogo, they might have more options going forwards. They might be able to play slightly differently, like you said, with the 4-2-3-1. And I think that might help them break down teams that in the past they've struggled to break down. So I think the signs are there that this could be a very good season for Liverpool once again.
Well, it's Liverpool, isn't it? It's the versatility. It's that being able to go from a 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1. And I know it's not an enormous change, but just being flexible enough, and those front, 4 if you include Jota, to play, all of them can play in any position pretty much throughout that whole sort of starting 11. I don't know, it just gives them a lot of options, doesn't it? And like you say there, in previous years, whatever, they maybe haven't quite had some of the quality on the bench. But the likes of Minamino getting more of a chance. Jota obviously there. Shaqiri sort of came on the other night, didn't he? So he might not be a totally lost cause or whatever you want to call Shaqiri, forgotten man. He might still have a role in there. I do wonder about Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, whether if they are changing the shape, whether they're going to whether they can bomb forward quite as much as they do without Van Dijk. It'd be interesting to see how they go over the season, because they're maybe a little bit quieter than usual, particularly Trent.
Yeah, I think without Van Dijk, a lot of adapting has got to happen. They're definitely going to be looking for a centre-back in January to cover him. Ben White linked as Upamecano at Leipzig. So hopefully they go and get one of those if Gomez and Matip and players like that can't step in. But they're going to have to be more resolute at the back. You think they'd have to have like another number back rather than leaving just the centre-backs and a holding midfielder to cover it. But I think they're still going to put the assists in. They're still going to impact the game, those fullbacks. FPL, maybe we come to that later, their impact. But I still think they're going to be very impactful going forward. They get those bodies forward, don't they, Liverpool?
Absolutely. And they're up against, just a bizarre, quite fascinating team, I think, actually, this year in West Ham. They're just a very hard team to read, but it's going well. It's going pretty well. Obviously, they picked up a draw against Manchester City last week, which that's not West Ham. That's not what West Ham do. Obviously, big results before against Spurs, the 3-3 draw. Beat Leicester, hammered Leicester. It just
I thought you were going to bring up Wolves then, but thank you for not. Thank you, sir.
You know what, right? I knew they'd beat somebody before Leicester, and I was like, who was it? And I couldn't remember who it was, but it was Wolves.
Oh, no.
It was Wolves. Thanks, Jay. Oh, you a Wolves fan? It's my weekly terrible patter. But they've got a good thing going there. Antonio has a bit of a hamstring issue, which would obviously be a massive issue for Liverpool, for West Ham going into this Liverpool game. Apparently, it's a bit of a touch and go sort of situation there. But they've got Benrahma, who's an option potentially on the bench, still sort of yet to be unleashed. But you get the feeling that they're gonna tighten up. They're gonna go all compact and make it really, really hard for Liverpool to break them down.
They've got slightly more equipped players to do that now, I think, as well. They've got options in the middle. I keep talking about Souček because I'm in love with the boy. I think he's class going forwards and at the back. Set pieces, he's just dominant as well. So that will hopefully help hold back the barrage that Liverpool will be driving towards them. But I think we've said this on the pod already. These kind of few games that they've had, like a series of free hits for them. You know, you play Spurs, you play City, you play Liverpool. If you got 2 points out of those, David Moyes may well have took those at the beginning of the 3. So if they lose to Liverpool, it's no skin off their nose. I think what's going to be more important is what happens after this run. So their next 3 games after the Liverpool are Fulham at home, Sheffield United away, and Villa at home. You can do all the good stuff you want. You can get all the points and scrap and beat the good teams. But if you're going to lose to Fulham, if you're going to draw with Sheffield United, you might as well not bothered. You know, they're on 8 points from 6 games, 12th in the Premier League, which is the signs are good, but they're still 12th and with a reasonable amount of points. They need to get past Liverpool in one shape or another and then capitalise on it afterwards, I think.
Absolutely. I think it's a really good point. Like it's beating those teams around you, isn't it? It's you actually sort of tallying points up for yourself while knocking somebody else down. And looking at the fixtures at the start of the year, they had such a tough run. I mean, that is about as tough a run as you could get for West Ham. And the fact that they've come out with, well, like you say, they're quite a consistent flow of points. It's quite remarkable, actually. Fair play. I didn't think I would say this, but fair play, Davy Moyes, for sort of whipping that team into a shape. And I know he's not the most popular wasn't the most popular appointment, and people thought maybe a little bit short term and stuff. But credit to him, he's actually drilling that team very well. And they're a big, strong team as well. I was looking at some of the stats. I think that they've, on average, they're all 2 inches taller than all of Liverpool's starting 11, is what I found.
Whoa.
There's your stat. They're, on average, they are 2 inches taller than all of Liverpool's starting 11. So there you go. So they've got some big boys in there, all the way through, like say, Souček in there in the middle as well. And you never know. We're coming to predictions now, and I think I'm going to say something crazy right now, and I think West Ham might get a point here.
Wow, 3 draws on the spin against potentially the top 3 at the end of the year.
I know I'm doubting myself here, but I just feel like they're very well. Maybe a lot depends on Antonio. I think Antonio could be the crucial factor. I'm not sure if I totally trust their strikers beyond him. If he's fit, I'm going with the 1-1 draw.
Wow. I mean, I think if you
speechless,
I am a little. I think if you put me on the spot this season on this pod, the amount of times I'm going to bet against Liverpool winning is going to be very slim. So unless Fabianski does his blinder of the season, as he always does, he always has a blinder.
He really does, doesn't he?
Love that keeper. But yeah, City, Liverpool. Sorry to see off West Ham with a little bit of comfort.
Interesting. We'll see. It's just an inkling. That is on Saturday evening. It's a 5:30 kickoff on Sky Sports, and on Sunday evening, afternoon, whatever you want to call it. Sunday 4:30 kickoff. We have Manchester United versus Arsenal. It's on Sky Sports Premier League main event and Now TV. I feel like we've talked about these two quite a bit recently, so we'll not dwell too long on them, but Man United, we've got some new, fresh, raw data, I guess, to work with on Man United in the shape of their quite stunning Champions League win over Leipzig. Were you impressed? Did you watch that one at all?
I only caught the highlights, but wow, they seemed so clinical.
It's lovely, isn't it? I mean, it was ruthless from Rashford. I mean, Marcus Rashford hitting all the headlines in front of the page, front of the papers, back of the papers. He's just everywhere at the minute, and I mean, he's absolutely flying in that game. He came on 63 minutes. Should have had 4 if he took that penalty. I don't think I'd have been given that penalty away. But
this is it. This is my favourite thing. Yes, he got a hat trick. Yes, they were all lovely goals, but he got all the headlines for all the reasons. But he didn't take the penalty off the bloke who really needed a goal, and it's hard not to praise the generosity of that move.
It's good, isn't it? Did you see the sort of logic behind it with Lukaku? Did you see that? So Lukaku had scored 2 against PSG when he was at Man United, and then he got a penalty near the end and gave the ball to Rashford, so Rashford could get some of the headlines, because he thought, I think that was when Lukaku was a little bit criticised, and he just sort of wanted Rashford to get some of the glory as well, as like take the headlines off Lukaku a little bit. So Lukaku gave the penalty to Rashford, who scored, sort of very selflessly given by Lukaku to him. So he's sort of like paid it forward, really. so next time Martial's on 2, he's probably going to pass the ball to Fred. So
that's nice. And well, it paid off for him. He got a hat trick in much more glorious fashion.
And he's still got a hat trick. I mean, that's the thing as well. Wow. No, he looked very powerful strikes. He didn't just place them. I mean, he placed them, but he also hit them. Lovely to see that.
It's a bad omen for Arsenal too, because Rashford got 2 on his Premier League debut against Arsenal a couple of years back. So if I was in net, I was burnt Leno, I'd be a little bit worried come Sunday.
Tentative. A couple of the notes on United as well. I think Solskjaer, I keep defending Solskjaer, and I keep coming back around to this. Sometimes he frustrates me, because I think it was the Spurs game, he just looked a bit dejected and sort of despondent, whereas I'd be just getting angry at anything and everything possible. But he's doing the job. He's doing the job well, and that's a week now. He's outwitted, now classed Tuchel with PSG and Nagelsmann at Leipzig. And these are coaches who maybe a lot of English fans haven't seen them too often, but will sort of like jump on the bandwagons a little bit and sort of think, oh, Nagelsmann, he's young and he's doing well with this attractive young team. And then there's suddenly it's all, Nagelsmann's going to go to Arsenal, he's going to go to here, he's going to go there. Solskjaer, like, absolutely tore him apart. Like, tactically, he got it spot on with that midfield. He got his subs spot on. Obviously, he brought Rashford on at the right moment and told him to up the tempo was apparently the message. And he did that. And I just think Solskjaer deserves... Maybe he's not Alex Ferguson. He isn't Alex Ferguson, but he's doing well. I'm quite passionate about defending Solskjaer here.
I'm not going to argue against you. I am going to bring up the fact that Man United are 15th in the Premier League. But in the Champions League this season, those two games have been quite good, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you say, obviously they need to work on a lot of things. And they need to work on these... They seem to get up for the big games without sort of taking the smaller ones quite so seriously. I don't know. I just think if Rashford's creeping into form, that's going to right itself. And I just see little signs of progress beyond the results with United. So we'll see. But yeah, and Fred as well. Little shout out for Fred, who I thought was excellent last night. He was a bit of a destroyer in the middle. Just recycles the ball quite well. Good to see him slotting in there. Maybe not the most fashionable. Does the job. Any chat about Arsenal? I'm just a bit dull, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, it's a bit shame we're talking about such a mid-table clash here. 15th v 11th. I was like, could we find anything better to talk about? I think it's quite a funny one. Like Man United, Arsenal are more settled, but equally as inconsistent, it seems. Last four games, Arsenal have won one, lost one, won one, lost one. So if they beat Dundalk tonight, form does tell you that Man United get the 3 points at the weekend. There's a lot of stats going around this week about Arteta's run. I think he's had something like 42 games, and they looked at his first 42 games versus Emery's last 42 games, and Arsenal are 1 point better off over those 42 games than with Emery. So there's obviously progress there, ethos-wise and mentality-wise, but there's still so many problems in that side. The front three, whichever front three they're playing, don't seem to have the answers. Aubameyang, as we spoke about, I think last week, has gone very quiet. And I think they're missing a creative presence behind them. They've got Partey coming now, who is very good on the ball. I think they need to give him the ball, but it's a funny one to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. It just looked that if they had a 2015-16 Mesut Ozil, this would be a better Arsenal side.
You're not wrong, are you? It's such a frustrating one. I'd love to see what he could do if they actually did throw him into the side. I think there's so much sort of bluster gone on between both sides, between all parties involved in that situation. I don't think there's no blame apportioned to one person, I don't think, in this. But it is a shame, isn't it? Because Ozil at full tilt is something special. Obviously, we haven't seen that for a while now. And I think it is over. I think the chance has gone. I mean, he's not in the squad or anything. But I know what you mean, though. I was going to bring him up, and I thought I would leave it just to see if he did. And there he is. Like, I think all Arsenal fans would love to see him have a crack, and even just to sort of mix the pot a bit, or like another option. I know you forget the wages, forget the fact that he should be, first name on the team sheet, but even just from the bench, a bit of spark. You would like to see what that would do to their front line.
There's a bit of vision missing, I think, there. And 5 years ago, we know Mesut Ozil had that vision. The amount of assists he got has been talked about, from here to the moon. But he obviously isn't seen as the same player anymore. I think the ship has sailed. I think he will move on shortly, and it's sad that it's happened in this way, but it has for all parties. But regardless, I think Arsenal are going to be looking for a creative player to play with Partey. They obviously didn't think of him as a replacement for Xhaka, but Xhaka still isn't making it obvious what he is doing all the time. A bit like Dani Ceballos. Sometimes I watch Dani Ceballos and I want to like him. Come from Betis, he's on loan from Real Madrid. All the signs are there that I should love Dani Ceballos. and I just can't pinpoint what he does.
Yeah, he's very good. I feel like they've got a few very good players. I think Ceballos is one of them. Very good footballers, technically excellent, and enough to again captivate Twitter for about 3 minutes. But what do they actually achieve? What's the sort of the end product of that? I thought this was Guendouzi before when they had Guendouzi, and everybody was raving about this Guendouzi for his ball carrying and all this sort of stuff. I didn't see it. I didn't get it. I don't know. I think there's just needs to be this end product with Arsenal that I think they are a work in progress, and they are well, I mean, as that suggests, they maybe not progressing as quickly as we want them to or would like them to. But I think there are positive signs beyond the points, but you need to start turning that into points. And I don't think they're going to be getting any this weekend. What's your predictions for Manchester United versus Arsenal?
Like I said, two really inconsistent teams, but yeah, if you're gonna look at who's got the upper hand, I think it's Man United. If Rashford carries on that sort of form, Greenwood only needs a sniff. I think United will sneak it a 2-1.
I'm going with a 2-0. I fancy them. This weekend. Also, just a quick shout out. We'll not go on it too long, but a quick shout out for Burnley Chelsea, which is on BT Sport box office. It's a 3:00 kickoff on Saturday. Chelsea looking good, aren't they? Chelsea looking good. They got their 4-0 win against Krasnodar with a near full stadium or half a stadium. But Ziyech is coming to the party. Pulisic is back in the goals. Havertz, a couple of neat touches. They've got a bit about them, haven't they, Chelsea? It's starting to come together.
We knew it'd happen. It given us some time. It's a FIFA squad. It's what you buy on career mode. You get £120 million pot. You go buy Werner because he's got the pace. You go buy Ziyech because he can cross and dribble, and you win the league. And even though it won't quite be that for Chelsea, I think if those players get them all playing together, you've got the likes of Mount and Abraham off the bench, who both were brilliant last year. Those signs point to scoring some goals, I think.
I like what Lampard was saying. Just the balance is slowly coming. They were scoring too many goals and conceding too many. Now there's 3 clean sheets in a row, isn't it? In all competitions, I think. Is that correct? And they're slowly getting the balance right. And if you can just sort of start sprinkling a couple of goals, which you would assume would naturally come from having players like Ziyech and Pulisic in there, could be a start of a very nice little run for Chelsea over the winter. I think they're my one to keep an eye on. Keep an eye on Chelsea. Keep an eye on Chelsea.
And unfortunately, Burnley not in the greatest run of form themselves.
Yeah,
1 point on the board. You don't want to be facing Chelsea when goals look pretty hard to come by at the other end for you. So
Burnley. I mean, I can't remember the last time Burnley started a season well. I feel like they always do this. They always lose their first 6, and then it's just clockwork, isn't it? I'm still fully adamant they'll stay up because they'll just find a way over the winter. They'll just find a way to grind out those draws and things like that. Interesting. I like Dwight McNeil still. I really want to see him actually in a team that goes for it. No disrespect to Dyche, because I think he's fantastic. I love him as a manager. I think he's got Burnley punching above their budget, so to speak, for so many years now. But there are a couple of players a little bit like that, who like McNeil, who I think I'd love to see them at a team going for it. I don't know. I'm not saying Chelsea, but at a bigger team who's going to give him a chance and actually to just open the taps a little bit. But yeah, he's a good little player, him. So big fan. Chelsea win for that one?
I think so. It's hard to see past that.
Yeah, tricky. But I think Burnley will come good. Burnley will stay up because that's Burnley. But
we're not writing anyone off here.
We're not. The football times.
We're not writing anyone off.
Football times gives chances to people. We don't write people off. We let them sort of soldier on over winter and then stay up. I'm going with a Chelsea 2 or 3-0 win, I think there. And that is, you can watch that. It's on Saturday afternoon. It's a 3:00 kickoff on BT Sport box office. Moving on to Fantasy Premier League. Toucan or not Toucan is the sort of I feel like that's the split now. There are some people in the world who have Kane and everybody else that does not have Kane. And that feels like the most crucial aspect of fantasy this year. I still not got him. Still not got him.
That's a brave call, sir.
It's I mean, my thing is I've had Ings, Jimenez, Calvert-Lewin pretty much every week since the start. And I just hate taking out players who score. Like Jimenez scored the other day. Ings got 2 assists the other day and should have scored. Calvert-Lewin, that's his first game without a goal. I just can't justify taking players out no matter who is being put in. So I'm finding that tricky at the minute. So I'm just sort of like, ugh. Every time I watch Kane, I'm just like, ugh, hold on. How are you doing in yours?
Yep, I've got Kane. Even though I took Jimenez out, so I did lose points for that one. But I think long term, Kane's going to be a good one to have. The fixtures do get a bit trickier. They've got Brighton and West Brom next, but then City, Spurs, Arsenal, Palace, Liverpool. So it does get a bit trickier for them. So he may drop back out. But I think you've got to have at least one of the pair. But then typically, whichever one you pick, the other one's going to score a hat-trick, isn't it? So.
Yeah, I mean, I picked Son as my captain this week ahead of Salah, and I was just very, very glad to have done that. Consider it was 22 points versus what would have been 4 points.
Yeah, that's exactly the move I did the other way around, Michael. So thanks for bringing that up.
Really? Oh,
appreciate it. Thank you.
That's such a shame. How many points do you have have you got that statistic to hand?
This week I got 43. Do you want the overall?
What's your overall?
Oh dear, you really want to play this game?
I do.
3-3-5.
3-3-5. I'm on 3-3-0.
Come on! That's with picking Kepa in goal.
I remember those days when you were picking Kepa.
Wish I could pick Mendy. Mendy's brilliant.
Mendy is brilliant, isn't he? Let's go with Mendy. Actually, on the Chelsea note, I've made my transfer for the week already, and to try and beat a price rise, which I did beat. I've taken out Trent from my fantasy football. I feel like he will do well this season. I don't think he's going to do 2.5 million or whatever it is better than a lot of other premium cost defenders. Like, he is super premium, and I just don't think he's quite in that bracket at the moment. But I've gone for Chilwell. I've gone for, it seems fairly obvious. I think he feels a little bit like he's coming into sort of must-have territory. Chelsea picking up clean sheets, a couple of clean sheets, 3 in a row now in all competitions. Chilwell on set pieces, he gets forward. I like the look of him.
Again, mate, we're so in sync now after a few weeks of this FPL therapy. That's the exact move I'm looking to do. I think 1.8 as he is today, it's such a good trade for Arnold. I don't think the points between them is going to be enough for that 1.5 million or so difference. So I think he's a really good shout. Also want to shout out Kufal at West Ham. I know we spoke about West Ham a lot, and I spoke about the Slavia Prague boys already, but he's only 4.5 and he gets forward, and West Ham might keep a clean sheet if Fabianski's amazing as he usually is. So I think he's a good shout at 4.5.
I'm also going as well. So he's owned by 18% of people, so it's already a decent amount of people. But Danny Ings, I'm still going to bang that drum, because if you look at his 6 game weeks so far, he's got 2 points, 11 points, 9 points, 2 points, 7, 10. So out of those 6 game weeks, only 2 of them he hasn't actually done anything in. The others he's got 7, 9, 10, 11 points. He's getting assists. He should have scored the other day as well, which on another day you would have put that away. He gets bonus points when he scores as well. Southampton are a little bit shrewd, so they'll win 1 or 2-0 sort of thing. Quite like, he is the difference maker, and he will get the bonus points. He is a bit more expensive. He is 8.5 million. He's not, the Callum Wilson level of money, but I just think Ings is going to have another. I don't think last year was a fluke. And I reckon we could be on for a decent little. And his crossing the other day as well. His crossing was excellent. If he adds that to his game, then sorted.
One thing I really like about him as well is how many goals he scores against the big boys. He's got the joint most goals against teams in the Big Six or the traditional Big Six since the start of last season, joint with Rashford.
Very good stuff.
Which I think is just, phenomenal really for a team like Southampton. If you can't afford him though, let me shout out James Ward-Prowse. Nice segue from your player to mine there. Because his scoring record of late has been outstanding since I think it was the restart after lockdown. So Ward-Prowse is always good. It's on set pieces as well. And my last shout out, mate, it's a slight pain to be shouting out a West Brom player, but this boy I've liked since League One, and it's Karlan Grant. Came in at Huddersfield when they went down for the back end of their season, so he's got Premier League experience. He did it for him again last season. Obviously, they weren't particularly great Huddersfield in the Championship, but he scored goals consistently. He's played 2 games for West Brom now, scored the other day, and I think he could turn out to be one of those players that's a 50% goal involvement. If West Brom are going to score, I think he's going to be, on the end of it. And at 6 million, it's a differential that's definitely worth keeping an eye out, my friend.
Yeah, it's the first time I've thought about Karlan Grant as fantasy potential, but that's you heard it here first, ladies and gents. When Karlan Grant takes the Premier League by storm, remember, it was here.
The Football Times said it first.
Football Times said it first. Because that's what we do.
Trademark. Copyright.
So ridiculous. And finally, we're going to move on to our favourite Premier League players. So I was watching Son the other day, and do you see the video about it when he was asking Kane whether he got the assist?
He looks so genuinely happy, doesn't he?
Was that you? And then he nods, and it's like, it's like the most beautiful, beautiful moment. I know a few people. He's probably a lot of people's favourite, the neutrals' favourite at the moment, Son. I'd like to offer up my brother's take, which is he absolutely adores Jamie Vardy. Like, I mean, don't we all? But he adores Jamie Vardy. Just thinks he's relentless, ruthless, quick, just nasty in your face, just everything you want a striker to be. So he's a big fan of him. But who are you going to go for? Is this the Ajax? Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
Well, see,
come on.
When you pitched this to me in our podcast prep, I've taken it slightly differently. I've gone old school with my 2 picks. I've gone ex-Prem players. So the player that made me fall in love with football, Ryan Giggs. The player that made me fall in love with Wolves, Matt Jarvis. Going to shout him out every chance I get. Matt Jarvis.
Matt Jarvis, yes.
But the two players that I love from like other clubs that I never really had any affiliation with. The first one is the Ajax shirt. It's my man Dusan Tadic. Oh, that boy can play football. I think there was a stat, something like every season before he joined Southampton, he got the most assists for his club out of any player. For Groningen and 20. He's just unreal. He once won one game for Southampton. He got 4 assists and scored. Do you remember who that was?
Was that against us? Flipping heck.
That was in an 8-0 thrashing of Sunderland AFC.
Oh, you know what? Right? Do you know how? I didn't know this was. Genuinely didn't know where this was going. But I found out about that result when I woke up in Texas.
Oh, wow.
I woke up in early morning in Austin, Texas. I woke up sleeping on a friend's settee, I believe, and I rolled over, looked at the score. It was about 6-0, and I just went back to sleep. and that Santiago Virginie own goal. Do you remember that? Don't take the shimmer off Tadic here, but that Virginie own goal, the volley, the curled volley behind the keeper. Oh, it's absolutely tremendous. I'd love to tell you more about Tadic in that game, but I still genuinely haven't watched the highlights from it. I don't know what the goals were like.
Go on, Dusan Tadic 2020-21 highlights, skills, tricks on YouTube, because it's just, for a vision player, the amount of assists he got were outstanding. And if you let me, mate, I've got one more player to shout out.
Oh, I mean, I've got 3 here, so just keep going for it. Okay,
I'll do mine and then you can rattle through. But this guy is a genuine Premier League cult hero. I love My players are those kind of left wingers that can go past the player, can trick and work really hard, like Giggs and Jarvis. And the one for me growing up was Morton Gamst Pedersen. Oh,
Yes, Morton Gamst. Shout out the Pedersen. I like
what
that.
a player he was at Blackburn, the glory days.
He just
Oh,
had an absolute rocket left foot, didn't he? He sort of like shifted the earth when he when he kicked the ball sometimes. He
he's
was
still doing it now. He's 39, playing in the third tier in Norway.
Really?
Still wants to play into his 40s, hitting rocket free kicks, volleys left, right, and centre. Every FIFA, I'd buy him. He was just great.
So, I can't help but think when you say Gams Pedersen, I can't help but think David Bentley, like as the right-footed sort of equivalent.
Yeah.
Like it just sort of like the whip he gets on that ball around the free kicks and all that sort of stuff. It was like he was the closest thing to Beckham since Beckham, pretty much. But yeah, I love a winger. Traditional wingers, I miss them. I do miss them.
Definitely.
We Yeah, I miss. It wasn't Premier League era, but we had Nicky Summerby. It was just like absolute wand of a right foot. But moving on to my favourite Premier League as a neutral players. I mean, the answer just has to be Fernando Torres.
Oh, yes.
Like Liverpool Torres, just incredible. He just had everything. He had absolutely everything going for him. It actually breaks my heart that he went to Chelsea because during those couple of seasons at Liverpool, I mean, they're two of the best seasons from any player I think we've ever seen in the Premier League. That goal against Blackburn, do you know the one?
Ooh, talk me through it.
It was the one where it sort of goes long ball down the right, and then he kind of like half volleys it over from right to left. I'm not describing that very well. It's a famous goal against Blackburn, and
for me, yeah.
sort of controls it, and then just like hits it across, almost like a cross, but it was very intentional.
One of my dreams is to get a Torres Atletico Madrid shirt from when they had a sponsorship by one of the big film companies. I forget who it was, but one of them, they had like a different film on there every month. And one of them was like Spider-Man 2, and they had Bad Boys, and Torres with short blonde hair running through with Bad Boys on the front of his shirt.
Bad Boys for life.
That goes around on Twitter quite often. I'd love one of them.
It's amazing. My other two shouts are pretty much the absolute opposite ends of the spectrum. But you couldn't be any further away from each player here. Yeah, I'm going to go with Dimitar Berbatov, the absolute, the elegant man that is. That touch, I think it was for Fulham, where the ball sort of goes off the camera at the top of the screen, and he just stands and it just magnetizes to his foot. Just effortless. He was such a cool customer, and he scored a lot of goals. I think he's one of those where
I think he's underrated because of how little running he did, but
he just didn't run. He just didn't move.
Nah, he didn't need to, didn't he? Like, talk about touch and finesse. Like, he's the ultimate five-a-side player, isn't he? Like, if you played five-a-side with Dimitar Berbatov, he'd score about 90. His shirt would be like bone dry by the end of it. He wouldn't even have to wash it after the game.
Wouldn't even need a shower.
You wouldn't have got anywhere near him.
Yeah. I just think he's class. It just absolutely just brings. I mean, you see how much I'm smiling now. It just makes us smile, and I think players who make you smile, as cheesy as that sound, just cling on to them and never let go. And finally, from beauty to beast, I absolutely love Marouane Fellaini.
Oh, well, there we go. There's a shout out. Explain this one, sir.
So when Fellaini played for Everton, he was at the Stadium of Light, and there's some performances I'll just always remember at the Stadium of Light, and one of them was Eden Hazard. He turned up, I think Chelsea won 4-3, and he scored a hat-trick. Like, we would have obliterated Chelsea had Hazard not turned up and ruined us. I've seen Aguero turn up and put a hat-trick in and just get a standing ovation. I've seen Thierry Henry scored a hat-trick, and he got subbed off, and the whole stadium got on their feet. Stadium got on the feet to applaud Thierry Henry off because he's just so good, unplayable. And genuinely, one of them was Marouane Fellaini for Everton, playing as some sort of like I think he was just behind the midfield, and he just swept everything up it was a cup quarter final, I think, as well. So that it was like everybody was desperately hoping to get through for an FA Cup final, or whatever. and he was just magnificent everywhere. And I thought him with Cahill at Everton was tremendous. Even at United, I defended him because he's just all forearms. He's just a horrible destroyer of a midfielder. Power, height, yeah, clumsy sometimes. But I think that sort of player, I really like. Just a brute in the middle. And I can tell you're absolutely in total disagreement with this.
I'm really not, but I think if you're going to talk about Everton hard man, it's really hard to look past Thomas Gravesen for that.
Yeah,
What a story that boy had.
Yeah.
I love the story about him. Sorry, Gravesen, I'm not taking it away from Fellaini at all, but there was a rumour that Gravesen signed for Real Madrid, and the manager at the time thought they were buying Lee Carsley.
Yeah.
But they got Gravesen instead. And I hope that is utter nonsense. But, that's what we live on now is rumours and stories like that.
That might be one of the best ever transfer rumours I've ever heard. Real Madrid thought they were buying Lee Carsley and they got Thomas Gravesen. That's amazing. Didn't he have a fight with Rubino? Was it Rubino?
Yeah. It rings a bell.
I think there's somebody in training in Real Madrid. Anyway,
yes, Fellaini, what a player! Look, I was all about Fellaini. I thought he did a really good job everywhere he was. Just not quite the fashion, was it? Yeah.
No, he wasn't the fashion, but I like him. And he had more hair than Thomas Gravesen and Lee Carsley put together. So that's the important thing here.
Not hard, but yes, correct.
I bet Real Madrid wouldn't have any mistakes signing him. And moving on, finally, thank you very much for your company, Mr. Wilson, on this drizzly afternoon. What is coming up in the Match of the Day magazine this week?
This one is nice and tidy. I love this one. We've got a beautiful cover on there. It is a Messi and Ronaldo cover. It's a celebration of all things GOAT. All the goals, all the glory. We love it. But then you've also got Liverpool City. We're looking ahead to that in the mag, getting the rundown on the best Prem rivalry at the minute. We teach the kids how to score, just like Harry Kane. And you can also win a PS4, maybe. So that's cool. But also, before I leave you on Match of the Day magazine content, if you haven't already, get on the voice quiz, Michael. Get your Alexa out. Get your Google Mini out, or whatever you got, and ask for Match of the Day magazine and put your footy knowledge to the test.
I might have to. I mean, I'm not an Alexa man, but maybe this is the time to invest to hear your voice or whoever's voice it is coming through.
There's several voices. It is me this week.
Face was on a sticker.
It's good. We got a quiz every Tuesday. Lots of questions on there. Get 5 out of 5 for your team. Push Sunderland up the leaderboard, mate. They could do with the assistance.
Huge. Thanks. Your face was on a sticker this week, did I see? I really want to buy that issue.
It Match the Day magazine's activity special. Still on shelves, probably. You can sneak it in there. You can get a picture of me as a little tiny football figure with a blue and red kit, not totally dissimilar to a French club. Yes.
Interesting. Well, thank you very much for your time. As always, it's an absolute pleasure. We'll be back next week to bring you something or other about the Premier League, something or other next week. We'll decide then. Thank you very much for listening. And you can come to radiotimes.com/sport for all of your latest sporting previews. We have Premier League, we have Champions League, we have Europa League. We've just got a bit of everything going on at the moment because it's a busy time for football. And I feel like I want to leave you. I was just searching that. I want to leave you with a Messi Ronaldo stat just in honour of the Match of the Day going for it. Here's my stat, and I'll let us all go home and enjoy our lives. They have 110 career hat-tricks between them, including 15 games when they scored 4 and 3 games when they scored 5. So if you tally up the games they scored hat-tricks in, that's 110 games they scored hat-tricks in, 351 goals. 351 goals in 110 games. Messi Ronaldo. Good night. See ya. Bye.